Why are you still giving headspace to someone who hurt you months or even years ago? You wake up, grab your coffee, but that unresolved conversation or that injustice still burns in your chest. That's bitterness, brother, and it's cancer for your inner peace. Know what the biggest danger of a bitter man is? It's not just him who suffers. He ends up destroying everything he loves. The tone of voice with his kids, the distance from his wife, the spark that disappeared from his eyes. If you don't deal with the wounds of your past now, they're going to dictate the failure of your future. Are you really about to lose your peace because of someone who doesn't even care about you? It's time to stop this. I'm not speaking from a pedestal. I've been in that place. I've spent sleepless nights rehearsing arguments against people who didn't even know I existed. I've let the poison of resentment sour my mood at dinner with my family. I know what it's like to carry that weight and pretend everything's fine because as men, we've been taught that feeling pain is weakness. But the truth is the opposite. Ignoring the wound is what makes you weak. Facing it is what takes real courage. The reason you should hear me out today isn't because I'm some master, but because I found the map out of this maze. And that map wasn't drawn by me. It's built on the only rock that doesn't move, the Holy Bible. If we want to build a life of impact, if you want to be the leader your home needs, your inner peace is your greatest asset. Without it, you're just a man reacting to the world instead of a man acting with purpose. There's an eternal truth, a life principle that most men ignore until it's too late. The Bible warns us crystal clear in the book of Hebrews 12:15. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. Catch the word it uses? Root ma. Bitterness doesn't start as a giant oak. It starts as an invisible seed underground in the darkness of your heart. Someone stood you up, a business partner screwed you over, your father wasn't the man he should have been. You plant that seed. And the problem with roots is that until you pull them out, they keep feeding off your energy, growing and, like the verse says, defiling everything around them. Here's your first micro action for today. I want you to grab your phone right now, or a piece of paper if you've got one nearby, and write down a name, just one. The person who, when you think of their name, your stomach tightens or your fist clenches. That's the invader living rent-free in your head. Writing the name is the first step to admitting, this is hurting me. Don't run from it. Face that name on the paper. The good news? You don't have to carry this alone. There's a path to relief, and it starts the moment you decide your peace is worth more than your right to be angry. But here's the thing. We hold on to this pain for a very specific reason. We think that if we let go of the bitterness, the guilty party gets off scot-free. You feel like you need justice, right? You feel like someone owes you something, and it's exactly that feeling of being owed that's keeping you enslaved. But what if I told you that your quest for payback is actually the biggest lie you've ever been sold? I'm going to show you why your desire to get even is what's handing control of your life to your enemy. I know what you're feeling right now looking at that name on the paper. There's a voice inside saying, but he can't get away with it, or I have a right to be angry about what she did. And you know what? From a purely human standpoint, you're right. You were wronged. The debt is real. But here's the big lie of revenge. We believe that keeping anger alive is a way to punish the other person. We think that if we stop suffering or if we stop hating, what the person did will somehow become less serious. So, as a twisted form of doing justice, we hold the burning coal in our own hands, waiting for the right moment to throw it at the other person. But who's getting burned while you wait? It's you, brother. It's always you. Bitterness is the only poison we drink expecting the enemy to die. It's a financial transaction where you're paying interest on a debt someone else took out. You see how illogical that is for a man seeking wisdom? You're handing over your time, your sleep, and your life force to someone who often doesn't even remember you exist. There's an eternal truth about who actually holds the judge's gavel. In the Bible, in the book of Romans 12:19, we read something that should be your greatest relief. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay," says the Lord. Listen carefully to what this means in practice, man to man. When you let go of bitterness, you're not saying what happened was okay or right. You're simply transferring the case from your amateur judge's bench to the supreme judge's bench. You're saying, God, I don't have the capacity to carry the weight of justice. I'm going to focus on being the man you called me to be, and I'll leave the settling of accounts in your hands. This isn't cowardice. It's strategy. It's taking control away from whoever hurt you and retaking command of your own ship. As long as you seek revenge, you're still a slave to that person. They still dictate your mood on Sunday afternoon. I want you to imagine that person in front of you right now. Imagine they owe you a massive amount of money that represents the pain they caused you. Now, mentally, I want you to tear up that bill. Say out loud, right where you are, even if it's quietly, I cancel this debt. You don't owe me anything anymore. I don't need your apology to be happy. Doing this doesn't free the person from God's justice, but it frees you from the obligation to be their executioner. If you feel like this weight is finally starting to lift off your shoulders and you want to continue this journey to become the man of integrity your family deserves, hit that subscribe button. But careful, don't think this poison stays locked up inside you. If you think you can be a bitter man in silence without it affecting the people you love most, you're terribly mistaken. Bitterness is like a chemical leaking into the soil of your home. It'll kill the flowers in your garden even if you try to hide the crack in the pipe. And the price of that can be higher than you imagine. The blood on the arena floor. Have you ever come home after a long day, looked at your wife, and felt like there was a 10-foot wall between you two? Or maybe you've noticed your kids walking on eggshells when you're around, like they're expecting an explosion or a sarcastic comment at any moment. Many men make the mistake of thinking bitterness is like a wound hidden under their armor. They think, as long as I'm working, providing, and not hitting anyone, I'm being a good man. But listen to what I'm going to tell you. Bitterness doesn't stay contained. It leaks. It's like an invisible gas that contaminates the oxygen in your home. If you hold resentment toward a boss, a former business partner, or even a father who abandoned you, you bring that combat energy into your most sacred arena, your home. And the blood being spilled on the floor of that arena is the emotional well-being of the people who depend on you most. A bitter man is a leader who's lost his vision because he's always looking in the rearview mirror, focused on the pain that passed instead of looking through the windshield, focused on his family's destination. And it's not just your spirit that suffers. There's a real biological cost. Science today confirms what eternal wisdom has said for millennia. When you live in a state of bitterness, your body is in constant war alert. Cortisol spikes, your blood pressure increases, your sleep is destroyed. You're literally rotting from the inside out. The Bible describes this in a brutally precise way in the book of Proverbs 14:30. A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy and bitterness rots the bones. You understand the weight of that? It's not a poetic metaphor. Bitterness attacks your structure, your foundation. It takes away your vitality. A man with rotting bones can't carry the weight of a family, can't sustain a ministry, and can't prosper in business. He's always weak, always on the defensive. Today, when you get home, or the next time you're about to leave your room to meet your family, I want you to stop for 30 seconds in front of the door. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, is the man walking through this door right now the captain my family deserves, or is he the prisoner of that injustice? Imagine yourself leaving that name you wrote on the paper outside. Don't let your enemy sit at the dinner table with you. You know why we have such a hard time doing this? Because deep down we think being a strong man means being a hard man who doesn't forget and doesn't forgive. We confuse forgiveness with weakness. We think forgiving is saying, "Okay, you beat me." But the truth is exactly the opposite. Forgiveness isn't a feeling that falls from heaven. It's a strategic decision of high rank. It's the most radical act of courage a man can have. And if you don't learn the code of this forgiveness, you'll never own your own peace. I'm going to show you how to forgive without looking like a doormat, and how to use forgiveness as a weapon of war to reclaim your authority. The code of radical forgiveness. I know what you're thinking. I can read your thoughts from here. When I say the word forgiveness, the image that comes to your mind is of a weak man, bowing his head and letting people walk all over him again. You think forgiving is telling the guy who betrayed you, "It's all good, let's be best friends now." Let me tell you something, man to man. That's not forgiveness. That's foolishness. And I'm not here to teach you to be a fool. I'm here to teach you to be free. Radical forgiveness has nothing to do with what the other person deserves. It has everything to do with your freedom. Forgiveness is a strategic decision of high rank. Imagine you're on a battlefield and your foot is caught in a bear trap. Your enemy is running away. You've got two options. You can stay there, screaming at the trap, cursing whoever put it there, or you can do whatever it takes to open that metal, free your foot, and continue your mission. Forgiving is opening the trap. It's not for the bear's sake, not for the enemy's sake. It's so you can walk again. The Bible gives us the exact code for how this works. In the book of Colossians 3:13, there's a direct combat instruction. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Pay attention to the word. Bear with. That implies the person will be difficult, and the command is, forgive as you were forgiven. Why? Because a man who understands how much he himself has failed and been rescued no longer has the right to feel superior and hold someone else's debt. Forgiveness is the cancellation of a promissory note. You're saying, you owe me my respect, you owe me my dignity, you owe me the years I lost, but I'm tearing up this note. I'm not going to spend another second of my life trying to collect a debt from someone who can't pay. I want you to do a physical exercise right now, wherever you are. Close your fist with all the strength you've got. Feel the tension in your forearm. Feel how your hand starts to shake. That's you holding on to bitterness. Now, slowly, open your hand. Extend your fingers. Feel the blood flowing back. While you're looking at your open hand, say, I'm not the judge, I'm not the executioner, I'm a free man. Repeat that whenever anger starts to close your fist again. This is what I call warrior's peace. It's the ability to be in the middle of chaos, to have been wounded, but to refuse to carry the aggressor's weight. When you forgive, you reclaim your authority. You stop being a victim and become the protagonist of your story again. But there's a danger here. Forgiveness cleans the wound, but it doesn't prevent you from being hurt again if you leave your gate wide open. Many men forgive, but they don't know how to set boundaries. They think forgiving means becoming a doormat. And then bitterness comes back, because the injustice keeps repeating itself. What you need to learn is how to build a wall of protection. How to truly forgive and, at the same time, be a man so strong and armored that no one can steal your inner peace anymore. Do you know how to separate forgiveness from trust? Or the wall of protection? Look, we need to talk about a mistake almost every Christian man makes that ends up keeping him in an infinite cycle of pain. Many men think forgiving means you have to be best friends with whoever betrayed you, or that you have to sit down for lunch with whoever stole your peace. They confuse forgiveness with trust. Listen carefully. Forgiveness is a commandment and a gift you give yourself to be free. But trust? Ah, brother, trust is a building constructed brick by brick, and whoever tore it down is the one who has to carry the cement to rebuild it. You're not a bad man for setting boundaries. You're not less Christian because you decided certain people no longer have access to your inner circle. In fact, being a man of God requires that you be a good steward of your time, your energy, and your peace. If you forgive but leave the door wide open for the same abuse to happen again, you're not being merciful. You're being negligent with the life God gave you. A king forgives the traitor so he doesn't carry the hatred, but he doesn't hand over the castle keys to that same traitor the next day. There's a maximum security instruction in the Bible, in the book of Proverbs 4:23, that every man should have tattooed on his mind. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. See that phrase? Above all else. Before guarding your money, before guarding your reputation, before guarding your car, guard your heart. The heart here is your mind, your emotions, your inner peace. And guard doesn't mean lock everything up and become a bitter, lonely man. It means put a sentinel at the gate. You need to learn to separate the men in your life into categories. There's the outer courtyard where everyone can circulate. There's the visiting room where some guests enter. And there's the sanctuary where only those who've proven trustworthy can step. Bitterness usually arises because we let people from the outer courtyard into our sanctuary. Visualize 3 concentric circles in your mind right now. In the outer circle, place the people who hurt you. You've already forgiven them, or you're in that process, but they stay outside. You treat them politely, but they don't have your intimacy. In the middle circle, place your acquaintances and colleagues. In the central circle, place only those who've proven they fight for you. Your task is, take that name you wrote in the first chapter and mentally move it to the outermost circle possible. Say to yourself, I forgive you, but you no longer have the keys to my house. Feel the relief of knowing you control the gate. When you define these boundaries, bitterness loses its power. It can't grow in soil that's protected by walls of wisdom. You start breathing cleaner air. You start realizing that your happiness no longer depends on other people's behavior, but on your faithfulness to the principles you decided to live by. This brings absurd clarity. You stop being the man who reacts and become the man who decides. And it's in this state of clarity that true transformation happens. Now, I want to ask you a question. What would your life be like if, starting tomorrow, you woke up with absolutely no weight on your chest, without that ghost from the past haunting you in the mirror? So the free man, Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. You open your eyes, and for the first time in a long time, that weight on your chest has disappeared. You no longer wake up thinking about what he did or what she said. Your coffee tastes better. Your focus at work is total. When your kids run towards you, you no longer feel that underlying irritation. You're present. This isn't a dream, brother. This is what happens when a man decides to pull out the root of bitterness and retake control of his own soul. Freedom isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of a peace the world can't explain and, much less, take from you. When you clean out the poison of bitterness, you free up enormous space inside yourself. Space that was once occupied by resentment is now occupied by creativity, by love, and by purpose. You become the kind of man people want to follow, because you radiate a security that only those who've resolved their internal wars possess. The Bible sums up this state of mind in a powerful way in Philippians 4:7. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Look at that strong word, will guard. It's as if God's peace were an elite soldier positioned at the door of your mind. When bitterness tries to return, that sentinel says, "Not here. This man now belongs to another kingdom." Before anything else, I want you to say a prayer of surrender. You don't need fancy words. Just say, "God, I surrender these names and these wounds to you. I choose peace. I choose to be free." Take a deep breath. Feel the oxygen entering where there was only tension before. You took a giant step today. You cleared the ground. You tore down the walls of the prison you helped build yourself. But now that you're free from the chains of the past, a new challenge emerges. Many men manage to forgive and free themselves from bitterness, but when they try to take the next step toward their destiny, they freeze. They discover that after defeating the enemy of resentment, there's a new giant standing at the gate to the future. Fear. The fear of failing again. The fear of not being good enough for the calling God placed on your life. The fear that your freedom is only temporary. If you feel that even without the weight of bitterness, there's still something preventing you from moving forward with boldness, I've prepared the next step for you. In the video appearing on your screen now, how fear paralyzes your divine calling and how to activate yours. We're going to face that giant together. There's no point being free from chains if you're still afraid to walk. Click there and I'll see you in a minute.